and welcome to the Viking Home Companion and an episode from the good old days. Once upon a time, in a land far, far away. Yes, we're going to take another trip back to the Principality of the Mists, cradle of kingdoms for the Society for Creative Anachronism. Now this took place many, many years ago at a Mists Spring Coronet. And this actually takes place before I had given an oath to both the Coronet of the Mists and Sinagua that I would fight exclusively in coronets and bard competitions in Sinagua. This time it was prior to that, and I fought in the Mists since that's where I happen to live, in the barony of Vinholt. At any rate, this particular coronet, during the challenge period, I opted to challenge Sir Maythen of Elfhaven. Sir Maythen, I'm not sure if she was a Viscountess at that point or not, but I do know that she eventually did become a Viscountess in her own right, having won a Mists Coronet. She was also a Duchess. Her husband, William of Houghton, had managed to put her on the throne at least twice. Could be more. I'm afraid I haven't looked that up to be absolutely sure. But at any rate, being a full of himself, young, up-and-coming, unbelted fighter, during the challenge period, I decided to challenge the Lady Knight, Sir Maythen of Elfhaven. Maythen of Elfhaven holds a very special place in my heart because she was a tremendous encouragement to me when I first joined the SCA in becoming a skald, a storyteller. And I think I will start with that portion of the story before I continue with the fight. It was at a Mists-Sinagua War, biannual war between the two principalities, and it was being held up at the Boy Scout camp on Lake Berryessa. It was actually a very wonderful site for a principality war. Not only did we have a lake there that we could go jump in after the fighting was all over to cool down and clean up, the site itself had this wonderful section that was actually overgrown with Scotch broom. If you don't know what Scotch broom is, it's an imported nuisance plant from Scotland, and as the name kind of implies. And the stuff can grow to 7 or 8 feet tall, has massive root systems, and not only go very deep, but they spread out like wildfire. It's a really horrible plant to try to control with weed abatement. It's very difficult to cut down, tear up, and clean out, because if you don't kill the entire root system, it just grows back. But in this case, it was actually a lot of fun because it had grown to that 7 or 8 feet in height and had taken over a section of the Boy Scout camping area out where there were a lot of trees, and so it basically made it kind of an overgrown jungle-like atmosphere with some trails through it. So for forest battles, it was a lot of fun. So at any rate, at this particular war though, what sticks in my mind the most is that after the fighting was over, a lot of us ran down to the lake to cool down and clean up, as I said, and there was a floating platform out there that you could swim out to. The water at that point is like 10, 12 feet deep, and you can dive off the platform, swim around it, get up, sun yourself, or whatever. And as I swim out there, Her Grace is sitting on the edge of the platform, her feet dangling in the water, and as I swim up, she notices me and she says, "Skald, tell us a story that has to do with water." And I launch into the story of Thor wrestling with the Midgard serpent. And that really sticks out in my mind, that she asked me to perform just on spur of the moment out there while we're all swimming. So at this coronet, I decided that I was going to challenge Sir Maythen. Now I'm fully expecting to get my ass kicked. I mean, she's a knight and she is really good, but You know, that's kind of the whole point. Challenge someone who's better than you are and learn something. Give yourself a challenge to advance to the next round if you possibly can. So we go out to fight, and she's fighting sword and board, and I'm fighting with my great axe. Now I have a combination that is a fake followed by an attack. And the way that it works is that I thrust to the face to get my opponent to raise their shield, and then I do a hard rollover snap off of that thrust so that I can possibly hit them in the head as they're dropping their shield to C. So it's a thrust snap like this, and again, it's they go block, drop the C, hit them. Now I'm fully expecting that this isn't going to work. I'm going to throw the fake face thrust, which, yes, it's a fake because it's meant to set up something else. It will work if the opponent doesn't block it. So I aim for the face thrust, I thrust, I start my rollover snap, and for whatever reason, I caught her flat-footed. The thrust came in, hit her square between the eyes, and as I'm rolling over to do the snap cut, she drops over, and I just freeze. And I look down at her, and she looks up at me, and she goes, "Was it good?" And I look over at the marshal, and the marshal goes, "Oh no, that was good, straight and clean." And I look back down at her, and she goes, "Yeah, I'm dead." And then I finally kind of just stand up, and I help her up off the ground, and she goes off, and I turn and I walk back over to my friends, and they're all just looking at me as I come walking over, and they're going, "What? Why did you freeze?" And I went, "It's not supposed to work that way. The thrust is a fake." And they just bust up laughing. And she came over to me a little bit later and said, "Boy, I don't know what I was thinking, but man, that just came in nice and sweet. Good shot." And I thanked her, and we went on from there. So that's 2 stories for the price of 1. Thank you, Maythen, for having been an inspiration to me back then. And that's it for this episode. Yeah, sure, you betcha.